Our next speaker is somebody I've been in many cities in this country with and spent some of the happiest times of my teacher leadership journey with. We have debated, I think we created a Pinterest wedding board together when she got engaged. I think we discussed the merits of burlap as a decorative wedding texture. Also sunflowers, yes, no. They can get too country with a K if you're not careful. But this woman is a hurricane of joy. And the gales of laughter that come out of her on any given topic are something to behold. And if you've been with her and had your hair blow back because of the voice and the laughter, it is a place to be. But inside all of that is the calm, centered soul, the very placid realness that is my friend Dorina Sackman-Ebuwa. Dorina is a dichotomy, for sure. She is a New York girl in a country world. She says y'all and coffee in the same sentence. Her ELL students call her Miss Dorito, but she would never put a finger on those cheese-dusted chips, no siree. You might not know this, she has no earlobes. However, she can hear the sounds of teachers afraid to speak. She is determined to give very loud voice to those who are silenced by the stigma of mental illness in education. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage my friend, Dorina Sackman-Ebuwa.
This is good. This is good. It's like confetti. It's a party already. Look at this. Telling someone, you guys, everyone needs this microphone right now because all I want to do is go, oops, I did it again. Okay, so played with my heart. So that's right. That's right. Brittany! Why, Brittany? Okay, moving on. Honor to be in this room with everybody. Thank you for this amazing moment, and thank you so much, everyone, for your attention and your time. In education, as in any profession, there comes a moment in each day where you just need a little downtime. Some people like to do yoga. I talk about them after they leave. Some people like to go to happy hour, and I follow them after they leave. But in all honesty, my post-educational respite is a really fun thing. I love to sit at my computer next to my cat that doesn't love me. And I enjoy the greatest snack ever known to man. Not a Greek coffee. Un espresso con un cannolo. A little Italian for you. One cannoli doesn't exist. Uno cannolo, cannoli. I usually do 4 cannolis, but for the effect. And there I go on my favorite website. Okay? It's a plethora of beautiful photos of people and places around the world, submitted by people from around the world, with anecdotes and sayings and just wonderful verses simply to inspire, empower, motivate, and elevate. My favorite website. So things like, I don't know, Leonardo da Vinci to Leonardo DiCaprio. So when actually this honor was bestowed upon me to do this, which it really is, I had a little writer's block. Kind of like right now. What do you say in a room of educators who inspire you? What do you say? Really, what do you say about the word inspire anyway? What does it mean to inspire? So I took a sip of my espresso and took the last bite of my cannolo, and I tried to pet my cat and go back on my computer and look at that website for some inspiration from this intimidation, if you will. But I have a cat, and anybody who has a cat knows that cats do this. But as a result of that, I will call this divine, or shall I say, feline intervention. I'll be here all week. So it really was. It was a divine intervention, simply because the paws of my cat went on C4, F7, shift, and then press enter. And the beauty of this popped up. When I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up, and I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life. And that was it. The walls of the intimidation for inspiration came crashing down. We just want to be happy. All of us. Happy teacher, happy student, happy learning. And there's a biological predisposition for this to happen, actually. When we are happier, our brains open up and we are then more conducive to learning. It happens. All of us. But the happiness is something that's so important because we just all want to be happy. And it's important because we have these moments, right? Moments of these kids and these great moments. I think we won an award for community service where you can see that little statue right there, and it's so much fun. And we love those moments, those happy teaching moments. But behind all those smiles sometimes and that wonderful energy, sometimes the happiness might not be there. It's there, but there's something deeper. Like this person. Now, I was about 40 pounds lighter in that picture, but I just want you to know that is me. And I wasn't as happy. Because you see, the best way to explain this is that I'm prone to migraines. Headaches so debilitating sometimes that I can't even get out of bed. And as a teacher, sometimes it breaks my heart to say that sometimes I don't want to, right? It's very difficult. One day I'm sitting there, right? And I'm in the after-school ESOL program for correction of grammar and conventions going, comma, quotation, according to the text, yeah. And the next minute, that's what I do. And the next minute, I'm in my house, on the couch, down for the count because I cannot get out of bed. I try to open up the blinds to get some vitamin D to do something for me, and I don't want to because I don't feel well. But there's a catch. When you're prone to these migraines, you have to be ready teacher, which means you got to be ready, and I have impeccable substitute plans. I do. And in all honesty, I have wonderful support from my administration and my colleagues. Administration might say something like, oh, Sackman, you got that headache again? Man, I can't even deal. Migraines? I just have a little headache and it bothers me. Girl, we got you, no problem. Listen, we got you sub plans, we got the good substitute, we got your kids in specials, we're all set. Just get better, okay? Because I know that, I can't even imagine a migraine. That really, really hurts. But we need you in those hallways. You are so much fun. You're the Tasmanian devil on crack. Come on, come here, okay? Want to encourage you. You're the cheerleader down the hallways, the kids, your positivity, everything. Girl, you're my human Xanax. Come on, come back, make me feel good. What monikers that people call you, right? But I am happy. I'm a happy person. Anybody who has met me will know that I love positivity. I love inspiring, and I love people when they are happy, and I want to make people happy. Absolutely. All of what they say is real. But you know what's not real? The migraines. I don't get migraines. I never did. And I've been lying ever since. So that little award there in that picture should be an Academy Award. The only headaches I actually get are the ones for the brain freeze when you eat too much ice cream too quickly. And the reason I can say that is because I've been lying about that too. My 78-pound weight gain in 3.5 years is because of a thyroid condition that I've been lying about. No. Academy Award goes to the girl who is obviously the spokesperson for Chico's now, okay? So as you can see, but honestly, I had to take a good look into myself. And why? Because it is so much easier in the teaching profession, and in 2018 it's a sin, but it is true. It is so much easier to say that I have a thyroid condition or that I have a migraine than it is to say that I have depression. And it is so much easier to say instead of that thyroid condition that actually, it's not thyroid. What it is that I'm lacking the serotonin within my brain because the synapses that don't really work because of the depression, but actually the depression is from the panic disorder that I had since I'm 7, which actually I'm afraid all the time because of anxiety, because I'm actually fearful of death, and every day I have to think about it and you get tired, and that's the reason why I have, really? So it is so much easier also because of the stigma of mental illness. Yeah, I said it out loud. Finally. My name is Dorina Sackman. I'm your 2014 Florida Teacher of the Year. I love children, and I have been teaching for 21 years. And I finally can say it out loud. I have a mental illness. And that's it. But it is so hard to say that. I need one of those yellow bracelets, to be honest with you. It's a vulnerable, fragile time. But I will ask you something. From a raise of hands, how many of you know someone who has mental illness? And there it is. So how could you possibly say something like that? You're the happiest person. You're responsible for 120 kids every day, every year for 181 years. 181, that's what it feels like. Did Freud say that? Yes. 181 days feels like 181 years in education years. Yes, it does. And you have all this responsibility. And what are the stakeholders going to say when you want to ask for those grants? What are your principals going to say when you actually have your evaluation? What are your students going to say? What are your parents going to say? What are the people in this room going to think? I'm scared, but not anymore. It's about time, because in the depths and the darkness of my depression and in the angst of my anxiety, the place that saved me from myself were the four walls of my ELL classroom. And I'll explain that to you momentarily. That's the why. But we got to talk about the what. And the what is this. In a recent 2017 survey from the National Institute of Mental Health, 1 in 5 individuals get mental illness or have or diagnosed with mental illness. That's 44.7 million people. And I said that with a New York accent, so that means it's a lot. 44.7 million people. That's a lot of people with a mental illness. And because the graphic is a female, that's important to know, because the majority of those 44.7 mil are females. I was fascinated by this statistic because mental illness, such as panic disorder, depression, depressive disorder, PTSD, vicarious trauma, OCD, eating disorders, all of those different things are considered mental illness. However, this mental illness, unfortunately, because it's subjective and no one really knows how to do it, because it's not just, oh, I have diabetes, here's some medication, we'll monitor it, we're okay. Because it's subjective and still it's not a new thing, it's just really what we have to do to make it work. It's different because some people believe that it's biological, some people believe it's genetic. What's the difference? Genetic is family generation. Biological means it's just you and your synapses. Or it could be environmental, experiential. It's a mood disorder. All of those factors go in, and 44.7 million in this United States have them. And I decided to research this further just for all of us to see what was going on. And found out of the 44.7 mil, 12.6 million have depressive disorder. Different than depression. Depressive disorder means it's more than 2 weeks and recurs. If you're depressed for 2 weeks and it goes away and you never have it again, you were depressed. Depressive disorder simply means I'm having it more than 2 weeks and it's recurring. So this research was astounding to me, because what I did find out is that 64% of that 12.6 mil from the National Institute of Mental Health said that they had severe impairments, meaning they were like the migraines who couldn't get out of bed. 36% only had, okay, it wasn't that bad, but it was there. But of the 64% in this stat right here, 34% did not receive treatment. Why? The stigma. The stigma of mental illness in our society and in our profession. So what happens? You see it all the time. Oh my God, that girl is cray-cray. She's bipolar. Oh my gosh, this is so crazy. I'm like so out of whack. Let me just check to see if my car alarm is on. Okay, oh my God, that's so OCD. Right? We hear this all the time. Okay? Oh, I'm all over the place. It's just so crazy. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so ADD. Look, a chicken. We hear it. And it's okay to laugh. But for those who have it, it ain't that funny. And it's hard. It's hard. But because of that stigma, those jokes perpetuate that stigma, and that's what creates these 64%, the 34 of the 64 not getting the help that they need. And that's difficult. And I said to myself, well, what does this have to do with teaching? Well, it has a lot, because I researched about this. And AFT did a research of 300,000 teachers in 2015 and found out that 34% of the teachers were in need of mental health. Again, 300,000 in 2017, 58%. Something is going on. So I said to myself, my gosh, I need to know more about this as an educator. What's happening in the education profession when it comes to mental health? Let's move on. Here's another statistic of those 12.6 mil having depressive disorder. Not just depressive disorder. And if you look at the statistics, you will see 21.7% are female. And look at the age group. 18 to 25% was the highest percentage. And I said to myself, what is that? I know, pre-service teachers. Because in this profession, we know that the majority are females. And we thank God for all the men in this room. But the majority of this profession is female. So I had to see that statistic, and I looked at it, and I said, how do we look at this even further? What happens? And I wanted to see, are there any services for pre-service teachers? Are there any programs that actually talk about mental health? And it was Wendy talks about emotional intelligence. Do we prepare our teachers for all the things that we deal with as a teacher? Yes, the stresses of a teacher, but also those things that increase the vicarious trauma or the compassion fatigue because we take on the issues of our kids. Are we preparing our pre-service teachers for those things? And I researched further and further, and it does say since 2014, 31 states and 9 counties, provinces in Canada require SEL, some sort of training, but it's embedded within a few things in a pre-service teacher program. It's still hopeful. But is there any course that talks about emotional intelligence of the actual teacher to be prepared? I looked and I found it. 0 in this nation. Zilch, 0, nista, niente, nada, nothing. I know, I'm shocked as this kid. Right? How could we do this to ourselves? And that's what made me think about this, right? We're really thinking about this, and in the pre-service teacher programs, what I think teachers are prepared for, Connecticut was mentioned, very good programs on something I call content intellect. Yes, we have the content. We understand we're math teachers, we're science teachers, we're history teachers, we're ready, we're good. Okay, we know how to do curriculum. We get out there, we have the experience for 2 to 3 weeks, and they get signed off when we become a teacher. So there are good pre-service programs out there for content intellect, but what is lacking is the emotional intellect. And that emotional intellect is emotional intelligence. So Wendy actually tapped on this just a little bit in her SEL, her fantastic thing about SEL. But what is emotional intelligence? And it really is a developing or learning of how to mesh the fact that you can think cognitively and you can actually think constructively as well, and then you can behave wisely. That's all it is. Sounds easy, right? Not as easy in our today's society. If you noticed, we are lacking the emotional intelligence to interact with people. So if we think about emotional intelligence as a wheel or to create almost like a clock with little gauges that go up and around, okay? So for example, the first one would be the value of 2 minds, letting you know that you have 2 minds. You have the rational thought and the emotional thought. There's something called the limbic system in your brain. I'm not going to geek out with you right now with neuroscience, but your limbic system is responsible for feelings and trust. That's important because that's where the emotion comes from. The neocortex processes that information, comes through, and is the analytical thought or language. The fact that if you know you have these 2 aspects will allow you to understand emotional intelligence, first off. The second part is developing a healthy mind, which means that you have to actively think about your thinking. Metacognition, but think about your emotions, which I call emotional metacognition. So while you thinking about the fact that I have to be aware of my emotions already is this step towards emotional intelligence. Moving further to a next one is the intra and interpersonal. We know interpersonal means how we react with people and the relationships we have with people. Our entire life is about relationships. From the moment you come out, you have a relationship, and bonding is the most important thing. We also are by predisposition to connect with people. We want that. But it's difficult sometimes when people don't understand each other and they don't know how to connect because they don't have those interpersonal skills to be socially aware and to know how to interact with people and have that relationship. Intra is your own self-esteem. How do you feel about yourself and your stress management? Those are the 2 there. Leadership is another aspect of emotional intelligence, and that leadership is very, very, very complex. It talks about your social awareness of your intrapersonal skills and interpersonal skills, but it also talks about something very important, which we all know about. Empathy is leadership. And what we mean by that is being empathetic, sure, but there's something that actually an amazing person who wrote a book in 2013, it was absolutely phenomenal, named Alex Grant. He actually did a work talking about something called perspective gap. Adam Grant, perspective gap in his book. I'm so passionate about this that I'm losing my train of thought because it is so big. Perspective gap basically means that you have not physically or emotionally experienced something, so you don't think it actually happened as big as they're saying it happened. That's a perspective gap. Adam Grant, 2013, Give and Take, his book. Absolutely amazing. So perspective gap can happen in all aspects of emotional intelligence, okay? Panic attacks. If you have ever experienced a panic attack, you empathize with me on understanding that you feel like you're not going to make it. And every time you think you're dying and this is the one, you're having a heart attack or you're not going to make it and you're not going to make it through this one. And I never wish that upon anybody. But no one who has ever experienced an intense panic attack has that perspective gap and goes, no, I don't know what that feels like, I'm sorry. No, but you have no idea, like I literally think I'm dying. No, I don't. And what they do is they undermine the actual emotion. Why is this key in mental illness? And why is this key in life in general? Black Lives Matter. Undermining because you didn't experience it means that you're undermining exactly how someone feels when they do walk into a store and feel a certain way. So the perspective gap deals with the emotional intelligence of not just of one's mental illness, but everyone's experience and everyone's emotions, yes, of how they experience things. Just because you didn't experience it doesn't mean it didn't happen the way the person said it. And that is what the perspective gap needs to be bridged and closed. But I'll be happy with just a little bridge right now. So that's why the leadership is so key and how we learn to work with each other and to be that leader that is leading with purpose, intentional leading. That's key. And when we have that, we have something called self-management. How good are you with your actual work ethic, your drive, the strength to do things? When we have things like vicarious drama and take on the responsibilities of our students, we are less likely to actually do our lesson plans well. Our research has shown that when you go through these experiences, you sometimes have that lack and that attrition, and you don't feel very well. So this is all the important things that will lead you to self-renewal. No, this isn't self-renewal. It's self-renewal of saying, what is my personal excellence? How do I understand myself in emotional intelligence? Let's talk about my emotions. How do I see the world? From what lens do I see it? From what frame do I see the world so that I can actually make sense of my own emotions? Trust myself before I go into the classroom with the kids. And it is a process. Incremental is monumental, my friends. No one is saying, I need to be passing this test and be emotionally intelligent so I can teach SEL in my third grade class. We're saying this process and being cognizant of one's own emotions and how you react will definitely impact how you teach. It is so key. So these are some of the factors that will help you understand EI, or as some people call it, EQ. So you think about that, and we have something called the if-then. If we put emotional intelligence into pre-service teacher programs across the nation as courses, not embedded somewhere, in courses, we will reduce teacher attrition. Happy teacher will stay. Happy teacher, happy student, happy learning. The domino effect of happiness. The Grant Fund for 40 years at Harvard University did a study on emotional intelligence, and the conclusion was this: emotional intelligence creates happy humans. So that's why we talk about EQ over IQ. if we put this in pre-service teachers' programs, then all of those things will happen. Our students then will learn, and we will be those edu revolutionaries that James talks about, to change that new America that we talk about, so that we have something very different in the way that we teach our children, because we're starting with the importance of trusting oneself inside your emotions so that you can teach others to be empathetic human beings towards everybody who might not look and speak and be like them. That's key. We just want people to be happy. We just want to be happy. I just want you to be happy. And it's important because I go back to that classroom, right? And I go back to this classroom, the four walls that saved me from myself. And why? Because in that very picture, there's a student in that room who said to me, in his best English possible, "Miss, you have clouds on your eyes." What? You have clouds on your eyes. Gabriel, what are you talking about? You have clouds. I can't see you. Cadê você, miss? Eu não gosto dos seus olhos. Eu não gosto do jeito que você é. Saying, "Miss, where are you? I don't see your eyes. Where are you? I don't like the way you are. Missy, you're too much in here, Miss Dorito. This is really big, but this, your cloud, you're in the clouds, so your eyes are on the clouds." What do you say to a kid from the mouths of babes that says something like that? "Oh, Gabriel, I just have a thyroid issue." Or, "Honey, I'm just having a migraine." That very moment, Gabriel opened me up to saying, "Dorina, you're not okay. And it's okay. Something's wrong, and it's impacting your kids." And he says to me, "Come back, Missy. Come back to us." And I did. I got the help that I thought that I needed. I myself definitely have some stigmas about certain parts of mental illness. It's a long journey for myself, but it's important for you to understand that these children were the ones who recognized it and turned me around to say, I've got to do something. This person here no longer wants an Academy Award. Those clouds that were in my eyes, they're no longer there sometimes. And I know I'm going to have to deal with that every single time. But now Gabriel and all my students in those four walls were the silver lining to those clouds that allowed me to see the hope to be vulnerable, to not be shameful, to be the person to stand before you and say, I have a mental illness, and I would like you also to understand we've got to stop the stigma. It's time our society has to be healthier. Because it says, when we is replaced with I, even illness, when I is replaced with we, even illness becomes wellness. So when I is replaced with we, even illness becomes wellness. Our society is ill if we only think of I. But if we together try to conquer and stop the stigma of mental illness in our profession, for our students, for ourselves, for our society, you will see that EQ over IQ is much more important. You can't live without either. You need your intelligence to be emotionally intelligent. You need your intellect to be emotionally intelligent. But it's important that we really drive this. To inspire, motivate, empower, and elevate. I think of the word inspire. Okay. I thought inspire, everyone's like, all right, she is the Tasmanian devil on crack. I saw her yesterday dance. She's a little crazy. She's going to be like, hoorah, inspiration. But I really thought about the inspiration. Maybe the inspiration and to inspire was simply to inspire you to think about your own emotional intelligence. Maybe the motivation is for you to be motivated to actually go back to your states and say, hey, pre-service schools, do you have emotional intelligence in your pre-service teacher programs? Inspire, motivate, to empower. Perhaps somebody in this room right now is suffering from a mental illness. Perhaps you know someone very close to you who is as well. Well, you're not alone. And I know that I'm not either. May that empower you. Inspire, motivate, empower, celebrate, and elevate. May we elevate our profession by getting EQ over IQ. May we be those edu revolutionaries that James talked about and transform this new America through empathy, compassion, and emotional intelligence. And all, above all, everybody in this room, let's dance and be happy. Thank you.